Call Halam Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Call Halayim Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Alright, and let's just get right into this. Alright. As we realize the dollar is being dropped and it's losing its grip as a world reserve currency. We're gonna get around to this though.
The U.S.
First, let's bring out scripture. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living beings say, "Measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Right. Look, yeah. So, when it says a penny, it doesn't actually convert to a single penny of what we use, which is worth basically nothing. Literally, it's talking about a penny that was actually a measure that was worth a lot. So that was kind of like a whole day pay right there. Alright, let's go on.
US dollar is about 60% of the value of all the currency on the planet, and more than half of the dollars reside outside the United States. The reason every country has US dollars is, first of all, that's what central banks use as a reserve currency. Second of all, oil is priced in dollars. So, this is the world, and what you see here is that these are the countries that are avoiding the US dollar in trade. They're doing bilateral agreements where they'll either hold each other's currency and settle that way, or they're establishing, like right now, they're talking about a BRICS bank, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, having a bank that will do settlements between the countries directly without using the US dollar. These countries, they tried to avoid using the US dollar, like Iran tried, and we banned them from using SWIFT. How many here have made wire transfers before? So do you know what a SWIFT number is? It's a code that you plug in, and this SWIFT system is what transfers those dollars from one person's account to another person's account. Well, Iran decided that they were going to sell oil only in euros. They got banned from SWIFT. But there's countries right now coming up with a replacement for SWIFT, and it doesn't use the dollar. It's the Sukra system. And Iraq started selling oil for euros. In Libya, they were talking about creating the gold dinar and selling oil for gold. So those are the countries that were trying to use something other than the dollar. And then you've got physical gold accumulation. I'll show you later that China is accumulating an immense amount of gold, but all the countries with an up arrow, that's gold accumulation. Then we have gold repatriation. Germany has been asking for their gold back, and they're getting it. Venezuela has repatriated their gold from the Bank of England. And then if we put this on a timeline, here's the nails in the coffin for the dollar standard. This is my evidence that I think is proof that the death of the dollar is coming, and it's coming shortly. Nixon ended Bretton Woods, and we went on the dollar standard. Then the first nail in the coffin is Iraq sells oil in euros. The crisis of 2008, and we added 1.25 trillion to our base money in the United States. As we add to the base currency, people get worried about inflation. They start rushing toward gold and silver. Iran ends oil sales in dollars, and they're taking commodities in trade for oil. They're taking, in Turkey, they take the local currency and then buy gold in Turkey and export the gold to Iran. So they're basically selling oil for gold. They do the same thing with India. QE2, quantitative easing, that's more currency printing in the United States. Libya, China and Russia bypassed the dollar. They did a bilateral trade agreement where they hold each other's currency and they do direct debt settlement without having to wire transfer US dollars. Chinese president just recently said that the dollar as the world's reserve currency is a product of the past. Utah recognizes silver and gold as money. China and Iran bypass the U.S. dollar with a bilateral trade agreement. Venezuela repatriates its gold. China and Japan trade directly. India and Japan bypass the U.S. dollar. Russia and Iran trade directly. Iran sells India oil for rupees and commodities. China and Brazil trade directly. Swiss citizens demand gold repatriation. African countries ban the dollar. In Zambia, you can go to jail if you use U.S. dollars. Quantitative easing number 3. They have announced at the Federal Reserve that they're starting with $40 billion of currency that they're creating each month, and now it jumps to $85 billion. That's more than $1 trillion a year. And remember, it took 200 years to go from no dollars to 825 billion, and now they're going to create $1 trillion every year. Iran trading energy for gold. Singapore removes tax on money. Germany repatriates 150 tons of gold from the New York Fed. The citizens of Netherlands demand gold repatriation. Ecuador repatriates part of its gold reserves. Austrian citizens demanding gold repatriation. China acknowledges fundamental market shortage of gold. And now the Fed is increasing the rate of printing, where I said from 40 to 85 billion every month, just over $1 trillion per year. So those are the nails in the coffin for the dollar standard. And if you noticed, they're all speeding up, and they're all happening right now. You don't have a whole lot of time. And if you wait too long, then the opportunity is gone. So these are changes in Chinese holdings. They are accumulating gold. They are getting rid of U.S. Treasury bonds. This is gold held in China. The green line is the cumulative gold. That's on this side, this scale. So it's gone from about 700 tons to almost 6,000 tons. And the past couple of years here, they have ramped up their buying. They know that the dollar standard is coming to an end, and they are protecting themselves. And you're probably going to see gold-backed renminbi someday, the yuan. This isn't going to be pretty when it happens. I am not an end-of-worlder or a doomsday guy. All you can do is play the hand that you are dealt. If we go to a new monetary system, and I think it's absolutely inevitable, there's just too much energy built up in this one that has to release. It has to come crashing down somehow. When that happens, there's an enormous wealth transfer for people that are on one side of the bet or another. And people don't realize that whether they think they are making a bet or not, they are making the bet. They are involved. This wealth transfer affects everybody, whether you want to participate or not. If you're holding paper assets and paper currencies, you have bet one direction. If you're holding gold and physical assets, you've bet the opposite direction.
Alright, so I just want to say everyone is getting tired of Babylon, and also known as Evil E. Now, as he said, if you bet on gold, you have bet in one direction. If you bet on the fiat, you have bet in another direction. But brethren, I gotta say this, alright? Gold and silver will remain its value for a little while, right? For instance, gold and silver remain its value for a tiny little while, alright? And during the times of everything's crashing, because gold and silver is kind of like an obstacle against inflation. You know, it's a great way to curb inflation. It's basically one of the only things that can stand up to inflation, literally. All right, so you know, since the countries are dropping the dollar, Saudi Arabia is dropping the dollar, gold and silver is just gonna go up and up and up. And the thing is, once the news breaks out, it's either announced on news or people just notice it all of a sudden, and people start panic buying. Gold and silver is going to go through the roof. But here's the thing: gold and silver is only going to maintain its value for a little bit until they go towards that CBDC system. Now, let's get the KJV version. Alright. Alright, right here. Bam. Let's go. And another angel followed, saying, Babylon is fallen, the great city, because she has made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Right. So Babylon, also known as Mystery Babylon, America, has made all the nations of the world drink its cup of wine of wrath of her fornication. Now, what does this mean? It means they've all drank from the cup of, they've all took the customs of America's wickedness, of Evil E's wickedness, right? For instance, you had in Japan, the woman would dress in long, beautiful kimonos, right? And and everywhere around the world, people actually dressed more modestly. And there was even a time in 1950s America, and a little bit before, of course, America was always the place of slavery, but where they still dress modestly. And then America announced feminism and these tight clothings and all this stuff, and all the other nations adopted it too. Then America, because in the Bible it says a woman shall not wear armor bearer or something like that. Basically, a woman shall not put on armor, right? But America says, you know what? Have the woman be able to go to war with the men. Then the other nations adopted that too. Then America said, you know what? Women can also vote. Then the other nations adopted that, right? Then they said, you know what? You could have trans, you could have gays, lesbians, and all that stuff. And all the other nations adopted that. And now all these nations are starting to realize and saying, hey, you know what? We miss our customs and traditions before we partook in the cup of Babylon. Darn there. You got China trying to make their young men be men, right? Trying to ban that effeminate media from America. The problem is that these countries are now pushing against America with what America has done with what the Slovakia. The problem is that for America is that all nations are pushing against the Babylonian customs. They don't want to do that no more. They don't want to do Evil E stuff no more because Evil E is a weirdo. He's the literal border of wickedness. All right. You know, he's not meant to rule. All right. Where Malachi chapter 1 verse 4, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation for ever. Right. So Evil E is literally the border of wickedness. Alright, they are a wicked people. Alright, brethren. So I just want to say this dollar is gonna just drop. This gold is gonna drop. The silver is gonna drop. I mean, Slacky, the dollar is gonna drop. The silver is gonna rise. The gold is gonna rise, but it's not gonna matter soon because they're eventually gonna introduce the mark of the beast. All right, and the beast system is gonna rise, and it's gonna be a test for all mankind, for all people on Earth, and that's where we have to really 10 times down on our faith, brethren. Seek the Lord 10 times more. Alright, Baruch chapter 4, verse 28. Baruch chapter 4, verse 28. And I'll end it with this scripture. Baruch chapter 4, verse 28. For as it was your mind to go astray from God, so being returned, seek him 10 times more. Right. So if you went away, you have to come back and seek him 10 times more. Alright? Or even right now, seek him 10 times more. Just seek him, seek him, seek him, seek him. Seek him as much as you can, because we're about to go into a time where faith is going to be rare. The land is going to be barren of faith, But that's all I want to say. All praise to Yahweh. All praise to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Thank you to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, for the words in this lesson spoken through me. And Shalom. Thank you to the elders and apostles, bread to help teach me this truth, and Shalom.